Women of Reddit, what's your "that's not how women work" moment? The first guy I dated wanted to go swimming, but I told him no because I started my period and felt sore and crampy. He asked me if I could finish it before the end of the day so we could go swimming the next day. Bruh, I wish it was that easy. Each time I go down you have your vagina already wet. I had to explain that's how vaginas are and that doesn't mean I'm horny. I also had to explain I need to be more wet to enjoy penetration. An old boyfriend once explained that if I was having cramps, I just needed to do what his ex did. There's this one yoga pose that will make that shift in the uterus that usually takes a few days happen in just a few minutes. It drops, and then your period is done in one day instead of 4 or 5. He couldn't elaborate any further. What shifts? What drops? But he swore he was 100% right. His ex cut her period down to 1 day with yoga. We don't pee out of our vaginas. It's the urethra. Had a guy friend in college who seriously thought women leaked blow liquid during their periods, like what you see in maxi pad commercials. I was on my period, and I had horrible cramps. One of my guy friends came over to keep me company, but he wasn't really prepared for how much pain I was in. I was crying BC, it hurt so bad, and the poor guy really wanted to help, but didn't know what to do, so he just suggested that I push out all the blood at once BC. That usually helped him when trying to stop a nosebleed. After he said that, I looked at him like WTF, and he said, "What? Doesn't it stop hurting once all the blood is out?" I explained to him what happens to a female body when we get our period, and he was just shocked. It kinda cheered me up though BC. I thought it was hilarious. Had a very amusing convo with a gentleman once. Dude was confused why we would need pads. He asked why we didn't just go to the toilet more often on our periods. He thought that we were able to hold our period in line. You do with pee, and pads are only if accidents happen. So his reasoning is that if women would be more careful we wouldn't need menstrual products. Props to him. He was apologetic after I explained it to him and overall respectful. I'm at the store with my friend stocking up on pads, tampons, etc. As I'm putting boxes in the cart, my friend starts generally complaining about the prices. Understandable, so I agree. We finish up in the aisle, and as we are walking away, a full-grown 30-something looking man mumbles, "Just hold your pee like everyone else." We were so taken back that we didn't even say anything. I never realized before this moment how utterly dense some people can be. The best situation I can think of was something a friend of mine said once. His sister was breastfeeding and said something like, "I don't know if I have enough left to her baby." So my friend kindly suggested that someone else can volunteer and ask me. I said, "Well, I'm not lactating since I don't have a baby," and he was honestly shocked to learn that only women who actually gave birth are able to breastfeed. He was convinced every woman just casually has boobs full of breast milk at all times. He was 25 at that time. I will never forget this. A guy once told me he knew I was a virgin because my boobs were small. That boobs grow every time a woman has sex. Jokes on him, I'm just a slut with small boobs. I'm a guy, but when our first child was born we had to explain to my Phil that you don't need to poke holes in the nipples in order to breastfeed. I'm a man, but I had my own little moment that my wife still teases me about. She was 9 months pregnant with our daughter. Due date was set for her to be induced in about 3 days. 9 AM that morning, my son, who was 5 at the time, comes to wake me up. "Mommy is in the bathroom. She needs your help." Thinking it was some minor thing, I sleepily shuffle into the bathroom to see my wife leaned up against the bathtub with her legs spread. Oh shit. The baby is coming, and I'm panicking frantically to figure out what I need to do. My son was delivered in a hospital by an obgyn and nurses. I was just a spectator. So I call 911 and try to explain to them what's going on. They tell me paramedics are on the way. So what do? I tell my wife okay. Ambulance is on its way, just hold it in for a few minutes while they get here. Both her and the 9 to 11 operator were like, yay, that's not how that works. Which I knew, but to be fair I was in panic mode. Ended up delivering the baby myself and everything turned out fine, but I still kicked myself over that one. IDK if this counts, but when I got into my first relationship, I wasn't ready to have sex with a guy. I remember one time he told me that his female best friend told him that, since I'm not having sex with him, it means I don't like him. I guess it's something that I'd expect from a dude, but from a girl. Everyone who has periods has different experiences with them. Dude, just because your last girlfriend had 3 days of light bleeding a month doesn't mean that all women do. Some of us go for 10 days a month and have to change out our tampons and pads, and yes, we are wearing both because it's that bad every hour or so for 3 or 4 of those days. Hubby, why are your undies sometimes gross and crusty? Mine never have any stuff on them. Do you have a vagina? You don't spontaneously generate a vaginal opening when your first period comes. You had your entire vagina at birth. No, I'm not pranking you. You don't insert tampons, of any size, into your pee hole. No, that's not where the blood is coming from. Well actually, your urethra might be bleeding now if you've been trying to shove a tampon applicator up it. Shortened versions of conversations with 2 of my female friends growing up. When dudes rub my clit so painfully hard and are like, why aren't you wet yet? Guy I was dating wanted 0 body hair at all times. No stubble either. We clearly stopped dating. Coming from a guy to other guys, don't rub a woman's clit like you're trying to start a fire. A man once told me I was too pretty to have clinical depression. Not even kidding. I gave man oral once. He asked if I came. Basically anytime a teenage boy tries to describe anything in or about the female body or brain so confidently ignorant, so exquisitely condescending, makes you want to pull your hair out some days. When a guy commented on a post asking what women think and said women only care about looks. Like sure, some people of either gender are like that. But I surely don't care if he's a 10/10, if he can't hold a conversation. Once had a guy ask me if it felt good when I wipe after I pee. I wanted to be like, does it feel good when you hold your thing when you pee? I had to explain to my long-term friends with benefits that vaginas actually clean themselves, and that yes it does leave stuff in your underwear. He was 27 and had been with many girls and had no clue what I was talking about. A friend of mine suggested an IUD plugged up your cervix to prevent pregnancy. When my ex and me discussed how the morning after pill worked, and he was genuinely surprised that women don't know whether they are pregnant the day after unprotected sex. He was sure morning sickness would kick in the day after. So, not only was he unaware how female bodies work, but also how Plan B works. I was making out with a man, grown-ass man, and he says come for me. Are you coming? So fucking awkward and weird. No dude and get off me. I'm a doctor and a woman. I was working with a male doctor and mentioned how a young pregnant patient had a really hard time tolerating the pelvic exam, the speculum exam, like when you get a pap smear. He said if she can get pregnant, she can tolerate a pelvic exam. I just laughed and said absolutely not. You don't get a vote on if those two things are anything alike. Sometimes I'm really astounded at some men's lack of emotional intelligence. I used to think that was a made-up stereotype to excuse men's rude/shitty behavior, but a lot of men really have no idea how carelessly hurtful they can be. One time a male coworker was telling me about how his girlfriend's apartment complex had a bed bug infestation, and how stressed the whole ordeal was making both of them. He then told me that this experience was really taking a toll on his mental health and asked me if I thought she would understand if he asked her if they could take a break from seeing each other until the whole bedbug thing was over. I was like, dude, if you can't support her through this, how can she expect you to ever stand by her through literally any other hardship in the future? He was adamant that she wouldn't see it like that and went ahead with his plan. They had a huge fight and she dumped him. I was told by an incel that women who had premarital sex would have tendencies to cheat more than men who had the same. Boy is just mad he's in his 30s and still can't get laid. I heard this with my own 2 poor ears from my own mother. When a woman shaves her leg, hair shouldn't start growing until the next 4 or 5 days. Only men grow hair every day. MOOM. My 53 years old ex-husband could tell when I was attracted to other men cause my nipples would get hard. I never wear a bra. Like, dude, sometimes I get cold and know that 87 years old man trying his best not to fall over while walking isn't doing it for me. Trust me. Just hold it in. My friend told me a story about how one of his friends thought that women bleed from their butts every month because he'd heard the term period poops and just assumed that's what it meant. On TV shows women go into labor and like 5 minutes later baby is out. They make it seems like baby shoots out of there like a rocket. Nope, it takes like 6 hours of hard labor. My ex-husband asked me why I hadn't had my period in a while. I was 8 months pregnant. The men age like wine, women age like milk phrase. Then you look at pics of women like Selma Hayek and Catherine Zeta-Jones and take a glance at most men around their age. Maybe, just maybe, some people are blessed with amazing genes, while the rest of us look like dehydrated potatoes by the time we hit 40. Got nothing to do with genitals. I have only ever heard this phrase uttered by men who cannot seem to keep any woman around for more than a year at the time. And in the spirit of equality I will say that there is definitely a female equivalent to this kind of attitude and they too cannot seem to keep the man. Was told with the utmost confidence that women pee out of their clitoris, and when I told them that's not true they had the audacity to say yeah it is, that's where you pee out of. I had to draw out everything for them to understand that I, a woman, was correct and that we pee out of our urethra. Haven't you already had your period this year? The woman was too stunned to speak. A guy friend asked me how I kept my breasts from leaking. I asked what the hell he was talking about, and he was like, you know, the milk. I had to explain that breasts don't develop milk until a woman has had a baby, and even after that, the milk doesn't last forever. He was pretty shocked. I vividly remember my friend complaining that her BF would sometimes miss her vag and go into urethra. I still don't know what the hell was that about. I don't think I want to know. There was this guy who really believed that women get turned on easily and you can tell from our nipples. He also said that tits are made for sexual activities. He was trying to convince me that he was right for an hour and a half. This guy's 18. Weirdly enough, had a woman backup manager at my last job tell me a time when she first started working in my department that she didn't think lesbians got their periods. To which the one lesbian couple that also worked in the department laughed and told her how wrong she was. I'm glad they laughed. I was just left with this sort of look. Asked my boyfriend to buy me some tampons. Since he was going to the store, he sends me a picture of a box showing sizes R for regular and L for large. He asked if I needed left or right ones.